The shipping industry began as exploration. Travel on the water was slow, dangerous, and extremely weather-dependent. Prior to the Industrial Revolution, wooden sailing vessels were used to ship goods. As the Industrial Revolution generated new materials and systems, wooden and steel steamships began to dominate inland waters. Soon after, the diesel engine was invented. Maritime use and application of the diesel engine changed the way both people and goods traveled, as well as how wars were fought. The diesel engine is responsible for early-stage global relations and the international economic stability we know today. Reliability of sail power was variable due to limited expectations of a vessel's arrival. Not very much communication was expected between territories. The nature of sailing relies on wind direction, weather patterns, and current, which would lead to the formation of trade routes. These routes would eventually lead to a pattern of European imperialism and eventually to our modern political boundaries today. The global wind pattern divides the surface winds of each hemisphere into three distinct belts. The easterly polar winds found above a 60-degree latitude, the prevailing westerlies situated between 30 degrees and 60 degrees, and the tropical easterlies, or trade winds, occurring between 0 and 30 degrees. These belts persistently pushed vessels to similar regions, which would aid to imperialism and a steady contact with the inhabitants on either end of the journey. Due to prolonged subjection to primarily British or Spanish contact, there are still distinct reflections of the culture in these belts today. The speed of sail power in the 1700s is nothing compared to our cargo ships today. The average speed of a vessel under sail in 1750 with a light breeze, a Beaufort force around 4, would have been 2.5 knots. As ships began to harness more wind with strategic sail placement and greater understanding of sail area, between 1750 and 1830, the average speed would increase from 4.5 knots to 6 knots. At the same time, there was a noticeable record of a larger sense of imperialism and increased reliance on trade for stability in the Industrial Revolution. In 1707, the Scilly Isles disaster occurred. Due to poor navigation and unreliable charts, the British Navy lost over 1,300 lives. This was the largest loss of lives to date. This tragedy ushered in a new phase of maritime law, the Longitude Act of 1714. This was essentially the promise of reward money for anyone who could invent a consistently accurate way to calculate longitude. The Longitude Act of 1714 marked a turning point in the expectations of shipping, with Britain demanding for concise alternatives to dead reckoning. The first clocks at sea misread time very often. The bobbing of the ship through waves was too much for their internal mechanisms to handle. It made it impossible to calculate the projected arrival date of shipments. Because of the difficulties in the early stages of maritime shipping and travel, there were minimal expectations of trade and economic benefit. The early stages of shipping were only exploratory. Passing the exploration phase, steamships were invented. They affected the economy and promoted the Industrial Revolution. The first steamships were used as passenger vessels and tugboats. The invention of the steamship created a greater reach for imperialism. Steamships were faster, they could offer more comforts, but they were also incredibly dangerous. The steam-powered tug allowed for easy entrance to port when wind or weather was not in favor. With further refinements, steamships were able to do ocean crossrooms and carry large amounts of cargo or people. In the early 1800s, the average speed of a steamship was 4 to 8 knots. As the paddle wheel was refined, the speed would continue to increase. Because of this, maritime trade began to become a more reliable source of economic stability. The rise of the steamship was during the boom of the Industrial Revolution, leading to the trade and expansion of processed goods instead of just raw materials. With the change in trajectory of global trade, engineers and inventors refined the efficiency and speed of the steamship, creating ships that would go on to form global relations. In 1819, a hybrid steam sailing ship, the SS Savannah, was the first steamship to cross the Atlantic. The SS Savannah made the crossing in under a month, departing from Savannah, Georgia, and landing in Liverpool, England, only running the steam engine for approximately 80 hours. While the voyage was successful, the SS Savannah was eventually reverted back to a sailing ship due to lack of trust for the hybrid model. As more applications of the steam engine developed, more incidents of colonization and imperialism developed due to the high maneuverability of the paddle wheel and the minimal reliance on weather. The invention of the diesel engine allowed for fast, cheap, and safe shipment of goods as well as people. Along with the invention of the diesel engine, the refinements made in marine propulsion allowed for increased efficiency, which led to a larger expansion of European ideals and goods. It's still reflected today, and the impacts of the diesel engine that changed how World War I was fought. The diesel engine affected international economics and global relations. Rudolf Diesel invented the diesel engine in 1893. The first production diesel engine was available to the public in 1897. The fuel efficiency of the first diesel in comparison to the current steam engine was impressive. The diesel engine would be able to run 6 times as far as the steam engine could with the same volume of fuel. While diesel costs twice as much as coal, it would still be cheaper than the previous steam engine and would require less fuel on board. This promptly was applied to marine vessels. There were hybrid diesel sailboats in 1903, and the first fully diesel-powered ship would not be launched until 1912. This was the MS Selendia, originally designed to be an ocean-going cargo ship, was almost immediately repurposed for war efforts in World War I. The impact of the diesel engine in World War I could be seen through new applications of old submersible vessels that were developed due to the increased safety of an internal combustion engine. The first submarine invented in 1620 was steered by oars. Centuries later, German engineers would use a diesel engine as power. Both the British and the Germans were developing stealth-centered submersibles during World War I. Without the diesel engine, World War I could have put a strain on coal as a resource, could have slowed movements, and the war could have been extended. There would have been a difference in warfare tactics and less of a reliance on maritime effort. The diesel engine shaped the way territories defend themselves. The marine application of a screw propeller created a safer and more efficient method of propulsion that allowed for more applications of the diesel engine. The propeller dates back to ancient Roman times, originally used to pump water directly upwards. In 1826, such inventor Joseph Russell began designing a screw propeller with the intention of maritime use. By 1827, he had tested and implemented it on a steamboat. Propellers became a way to make a vessel more efficient, as they are always fully submerged and do not sustain damage the same way a paddle wheel would. The marine application of a screw propeller goes on to affect ships today, still being highly efficient and allowing for battleships, cargo ships, and U-boats in World War I to be efficient and reliable. The invention of the diesel engine allowed for consistent and reliable shipping and travel that would go on to affect the outcome of World War I. The development of maritime shipping directly correlates to economics, expansion, and imperialism from the 1600s to today. The pre-industrial evolution of sail power promoted expansion and discovery. The Industrial Revolution led to the invention of the steam engine, which then inspired the internal combustion engine. These stages show the historical reliance on wind direction and changes in trade patterns when the steam engine was introduced. The invention of the diesel engine in maritime applications, along with the screw propeller, led to the expansion of European ideals and set the current economy up to run on imports and exports.